My name is Lily. I have a younger brother who was still in high school when I got married. My brother, 8 years younger than me, was always adorable, and I took great pride in him. Because of the age gap, he used to stick to me, but when he started grade school, he began to distance himself, which was sad at times. But now that he's in college, we're still very close. I am living a mundane but happy marriage life with my husband, and we were blessed with a child 3 years after our marriage. When my son was born, my brother was a college student, but he loved my son very much, and he even used the money he earned from his part-time job to buy him lots of clothes and toys. When it was decided that my brother would start working and graduate from college soon, our family, my husband and son, parents, and brother gathered at my in-laws' house to have a little discussion. The discussion was about our parents, who lived at their own house. It was a wonderful thing that my brother landed a job, but he ended up having to move often because of work. Normally, I think the eldest son would stay at home, so we lived in a condo not too far from home. But now that my brother has a job that requires him to move, he can't stay at home, and since our parents are fairly elderly, we're worried about them if anything happens. For these reasons, my brother asked our family to look after our parents. Fortunately, my husband is the second son, and my brother-in-law and his wife are living with my in-laws. So my husband also said, "I'm worried about your parents. Let's live together." With the agreement of our parents, we decided to demolish their old house and build a new 2-family house there. A few years later, my brother got married. "I want to come over and introduce her to you all." When we received the message, my mother and I couldn't contain our joy and jumped around in excitement. To think that my brother, who was once so small, was getting married. It's a rather emotional thought. We've had fights, and there were times when I wished I didn't have a brother. But he's my one and only brother, and that fact won't change. I was genuinely happy about my brother's marriage. And then came the promise day. The woman my brother brought as his fiancée was a very beautiful and lovely person. In front of her, my brother seemed different from usual, showing a gentle smile. And seeing that made me feel really happy. He really loved her, I could tell. "Dad, Mom, and Sis too. This is my fiancée, Allison." That's how my brother introduced her. She also bowed her head lightly, and we had various discussions afterwards. They met at work. They've been dating for almost 2 years. They're living together now, and she's even willing to follow him to his next move. Time flew by fast, getting to know her. When my brother and his fiancée left, my mother said, "She seems like a very nice girl." I felt the same way, and hearing my mother say that made me feel happy. About a half a year later, my brother got married as planned. Several times a year, during major holidays like Thanksgiving and New Year's, they would come over to our family home where we live, and we were able to spend time together as a family. A year later, my sister-in-law had a baby and gave birth safely. The little newborn girl was very adorable and resembled my sister-in-law. By that time, my son had also grown up, so every time my brother's family came to play, he would look after his little niece. Seeing such a sight was truly heartwarming and cleansing. Even after getting married, I could live with my parents and maintain a good relationship with my brother's family. I felt very fortunate and happy with my life at the time. However, at some point, the number of times my brother's family visited us every year began to decrease, and it became more frequent for my brother to come alone. In the beginning, it was, "Sarah seems to have some business," or "Allison isn't feeling well," or at least that's what he said. His wife came with him occasionally, and even then, she seemed to be in a terribly bad mood and seemed to take it out on their little girl. I felt like I was beginning to see my sister-in-law's true colors, and it worried me. However, eventually, she stopped showing up altogether, and several years went by without us meeting at all. It was when Sarah, my niece, was in 3rd grade, that my brother and his wife got divorced. At that time, my brother wasn't himself. He was completely downcast. When he came to our house to report the divorce, all he said was, "We're getting divorced." That was all. Of course, my parents and I were concerned and asked him what happened. But my brother never went into detail about why they were splitting. When I tried asking him about it again later when we were alone, my brother muttered, "I just can't do it anymore." I felt like I shouldn't ask any more than that, so all I said was, "I see. It must have been tough." That's all I could say. In the end, his ex-wife took custody of their daughter, and my brother was to pay child support. Since my brother adored his daughter, I had thought there would be a dispute over custody of their child. I didn't hear any such stories, so I assumed my brother just let his wife have custody over their child. I felt like something about it was strange. My parents and I were really worried about my brother, but he himself seemed to have come to terms with it and said he was able to focus on his work after the divorce. Then, 2 years later, my brother had a wonderful encounter. When my brother returned home after a long time, he had such a glowing expression that it was hard to recognize him. I asked if something good had happened, and he replied, "Actually, I'm dating someone now." He shared this with a shy smile, and he said he'd like to introduce her to us at home someday. So I immediately reported this to our mother. At first, she was very surprised, but in the end, she was crying tears of joy. Well, I guess that's understandable. When my brother got divorced from his ex-wife, he looked so worn out and had such a dark expression on his face. It was as if he was a different person. My mother was probably the one who was most worried about him. So seeing that my brother was trying to be happy again must have made her extremely happy. "Feel free to bring her home any time," said my mother to my brother. My brother beamed with joy and nodded. 2 months later, he brought his girlfriend over. The woman my brother brought was nothing like his ex-wife. She wasn't flashy, but there was a radiant beauty about her, a gentle kindness that was evident. She was the same age as my brother, and like him, she too was once married, but had no children. Perhaps it was because of their similar circumstances that they hit it off so quickly and began dating. My brother is of a good age, and this will probably be his last marriage. She seemed to love children and wished to have at least one if possible. That's what she had said. To have snagged such a wonderful woman as his last partner, I thought my brother was really lucky. We chatted for about an hour, filled with laughter throughout. My brother's girlfriend started calling me sister-in-law right away, which made me very happy. After a while, my brother said, "There's a place I'd like to take her, so we'll be going out for a bit." With that, the two of them decided to head out. My mother had prepared dinner as she expected them to stay, and so she told them, "Please be back by 7. The two nodded and seemed to have headed off to a cafe my brother had always liked. I hope my brother finds his true happiness this time. I hope so from the bottom of my heart. About an hour after they left, the doorbell rang. I wondered who it could be at this hour. A delivery service? It was too early for my brother and his girlfriend to come back either. With these thoughts, I opened the door, and there stood my brother's ex-wife. The moment she saw me, she said, "Long time no see, sister-in-law," and smiled mischievously. "What? Why is Allison here?" I was taken aback by the sudden situation. "There's something I want to ask." My brother's ex-wife, looking me straight in the eye, posed her question. What is it?" "Could you tell me where Charlie is right now?" She pressed me for an answer. I regretted the timing of this day. Why, of all days, was it today, when Charlie had brought his new girlfriend? With such thoughts, I became flustered, and my mind spun into chaos. "Sister-in-law, are you listening? I want to know Charlie's address." Then, as if sensing something, my mother came out from the back of the house. "Oh, Allison? Ah, it's been a while. How are you, mother-in-law?" Saying that, she smiled again. Then my mom responded in a cold and calm voice, "How can I help you?" She answered in such a formal tone. Hearing that, Allison laughed. "Wow, mother-in-law, what's with the cold treatment?" she said. Yet my mother remained unfazed and replied, "I'm not your mother-in-law anymore. If you have something to say, make it quick." Then Allison said, "There's something I really want to ask," she said. In reality, neither my mother nor I knew the exact reason why Charlie and Allison had divorced. However, we knew that Charlie had said, "I can't take it anymore." We were certain that this woman was the cause of it. In haste, I sent a text to Charlie saying, Allison is here. We'll try to handle it, so take your time coming home." I hit the send button, while my mother and Allison were still having a fruitless exchange. "Don't you at least know where he lives? Please tell me. You no longer have anything to do with him. Please leave." Thinking she wouldn't be satisfied and wasn't willing to leave at this rate, "What exactly do you want to ask, Charlie?" I asked. She then opened her mouth and went off, as she had been waiting for this moment. "Charlie, it seems he's dating some ugly woman now and planning to get married after abandoning me so casually. Isn't that just unbelievable? I won't ever allow him to get married again after divorcing a good woman like me." She was spouting off about my brother with a face full of malice. My mom and I were honestly repulsed by her. "Charlie has nothing to do with you anymore. Whomever he decides to be with now doesn't concern you, right, Allison?" Despite what I said, she didn't listen at all. "Huh? I divorced him because he said he was tired of marriage life, and now he wants to marry a woman who's not even half as good as me? That's absolutely unacceptable," she yelled at me fiercely. Even when my mom asked her to leave, she didn't budge an inch and said, "I won't leave until you tell me his address." She sat down in the entryway. If this continued, my brother would return and run into her. As I was thinking this, my brother's car returned. I'd sent a text, but they came back anyway. I panicked. And my mother probably had felt the same. Her face vividly starts growing pale. Then my brother got out of the car and came straight toward us. Upon a closer look, his face was beet red, clearly furious. Yes, he had seen my message that his ex-wife was here and had hurried back. "Hey, what the hell is going on here?" He was the angriest I'd ever seen him. He was shaking with rage, obviously at his breaking point. Then the ex-wife saw my brother's girlfriend and said, "Oh, this is your new girlfriend? She really is ugly, isn't she? What do you see in her?" With a snide laugh, she said, "Seriously, Allison?" I couldn't help but raise my voice in response. My brother's girlfriend turned bright red and looked down. Despite this, my ex-sister-in-law showed no sign of guilt and continued, "Hey, Charlie, wouldn't you rather get back with me than marry her? You want to see Sarah, don't you?" She had a smug look on her face as she said this. "Could you please stop trying to steal my husband? We have a child together, you know. There's no room for you here." With that, she pushed my brother's girlfriend hard on the shoulder. "Hey, are you okay?" I quickly rushed to her side. Seeing this, my brother's expression clearly changed. "Enough is enough," he said in the coldest, sternest voice I'd ever heard him. Even my ex-sister-in-law seemed taken aback for a moment. "Why are you angry? I'm just saying it for you, Charlie. If you really care about me, stay out of my life. This is your last warning. Don't get involved with me again." He looked straight at his ex-wife as he said this. Although she was momentarily taken aback, it seemed she just couldn't accept him marrying another woman. If you're going to marry someone as ugly as her, you might as well get back with me. If you refuse, I won't let you see Sarah again. Not to mention, you haven't been paying child support this year. She shouted this out loud. "Wait, Charlie, you haven't been paying child support?" Our mother asked, surprised. This was news to me as well, but it was hard to believe that my responsible brother wouldn't pay child support. As I thought this, my brother sighed and began to speak. "Why did I stop paying?" he retorted. "Because I don't have to anymore." "What do you mean? Sarah isn't even an adult yet. You should pay until she turns 20, she raged. But my brother dropped the bombshell. "Why should I pay for a kid that's not mine?" Everyone in the room froze. Not his child? Then whose child is she? As these thoughts were swirling around, his ex-wife, clearly shaken, stammered, What are you saying? Sarah is our child, isn't she?" she said. But Charlie retorted, "I have the DNA test results. Want to see them?" He was confronting his ex-wife with a grim expression. It seems Charlie had been meeting his daughter regularly, but as she grew up, he started feeling a sense of discomfort because she didn't resemble him at all, which led him to get a DNA test. The results revealed that the child he thought was his daughter was actually the child of his ex-wife and another man. After that, he started investigating and gradually discovered that his ex-wife had been having an affair even while they were married. He was currently in the process of consulting with a lawyer. Upon learning this, his ex-wife's face turned ashen and she slumped on the spot. Looking at her state, Charlie, showing no sympathy, said, "That's why I don't need to pay. I want you to return all the child support I've been paying, and I expect you to pay damages as well. Be ready for it." With those words, he drove his ex-wife out of our front door. Charlie's girlfriends seemed to have been informed about all of this by him, so the ones most shocked by this revelation were my mom and me. "Sorry to have surprised you. That's what was happening. Even when deciding to divorce, there were a few things I found suspicious," Charlie said with an awkward smile. As his sister, I felt a tightening in my chest, thinking about how hard it must have been keeping all this to himself, unable to share it with anyone. But at the same time, I felt relieved, realizing that his girlfriend is someone he can share anything with, a significant figure in his life. After that, Charlie happily got married with his girlfriend, and a year later, they were blessed with a child. Even after several years, they visit our home regularly, and we have meals together. No longer do I see my brother Charlie looking distressed as he used to be. I keep in touch with his wife, and I hear that he's head over heels for his cute daughter, fully transforming into a doting father. At last, true happiness seems to have visited my brother. Now, both my mom and I can watch over my younger brother Charlie with a peace of mind. May he be blessed with true happiness this one last time, is what me and my mother pray for every day.